Hello, my name is Thomas Mick. I am the author at the blog Restoring the American Republic, located at commonsensetome.com. Today, I was in the process of proposing a new plan of action for restoring the American Republic. And I felt that in addition to writing this, I needed to talk about some of the principles that I'm expressing in it verbally. And so I'm going to read what I've got so far. It isn't completed, but it will intro me into what I wish to discuss in this video. Since writing my article, A Plan of Action, in January of 2014, the tyranny of the oligarchs controlling America have become increasingly and openly hostile to American principles and the natural rights of the American people. And that's in addition, and this is not in the article, but that's in addition to where they were in January 2014, okay? It has gotten far worse. The oligarchs seem to have no more need for masking either their contempt for individual liberty or their intentions for its destruction. The plan I proposed to the people in 2014 utilized elements that included the grand jury under common law as well as constitutional sheriffs as important components for identifying and removing agents of the oligarchy in our local government. My thinking along those lines has changed dramatically since. In late February of 2015, I came across a research report I had read initially in the late 90s, a report I couldn't bring myself to accept at that time, since it seemed to contradict my oath to support and defend the Constitution that I had taken in '92. I just wasn't ready in my heart and spirit to accept what the report revealed, that the Constitution hasn't been in force and effect since March 27, 1861. When 7 of the 34 states in the Union at that time walked off the floor of Congress and seceded from the Union. It wasn't a lack of quorum that destroyed the Union, and this is a side note. I had believed that it was a lack of quorum, but in fact, the votes were there for Congress to still perform their constitutional functions. That wasn't the issue, at least in my mind. And this isn't in the research report, by the way. This is a result of my thinking and is my opinion based upon my knowledge of natural law and so on. So it wasn't a lack of quorum that destroyed the Union, but the refusal of the northern states to address the legitimate issues of the South, namely, to stop forcing them to pay a disproportionate share of the expenses of the federal government through the confiscatory tariffs imposed on their imports from Europe in exchange for their tobacco and cotton exports. Okay? For all those people out there, and this is not in the article, but for all those people out there that still believe that the Civil War was fought over slavery, it wasn't. It clearly was not. And if you really get away from the PC bullshit and the lies that you're being told and go and actually study, go to the congressional record and read the bloody debates, you'll find out this was not about slavery. Slavery was a big issue. There was a very large movement to free the slaves in the North, and I'm not saying that it wasn't a issue at all. It was not the issue. Okay. The intransigence of the northern mercantile states caused the separation of the southern agrarian ones by violating the natural rights of those states to defend their economies from the attacks of the majority votes in the North. Under the Union, the South simply could not muster the votes in Congress to represent their interests against the greedy bastards in the North. I believe this violation of natural law, along with the willingness of the North to force the South to remain in spite of the tyranny of the North, invalidated the Constitution that formed the Union. I believe that it was the violation of principle and the acceptance of the North of that violation that invalidated the Constitution at that point in time. They were no longer operating under the principles that formed the Union. which were based on natural law. So now I'm going to get a lot of arguments from lawyers and all kinds of people, including the common law folks and all this stuff, and that's fine. This is my opinion. I'm not going to sit there and argue with you. This is my understanding of this universe based upon natural law and my view of what occurred on March 27, 1861. It was a clear violation of the people of the South. It was an attack against their economies that they were reacting to. The North was benefiting at the expense of the Southern states. Lincoln even said it himself, that he can't let the states go because they couldn't afford it. The Southern states helped hold up the Union, and that wasn't fair to the Southern states. Quite plain and simple. So, understanding now that the Constitution isn't in force and effect. I mean, the very fact that Lincoln waged war under under emergency military rule that was never rescinded before the corporate interest took control, that also invalidated. The whole episode of the Civil War destroyed the Union under the principles of the American Republic. I guess that's the best way that I can describe it, as rationalized in my mind. Okay, so I know there's going to be a hell of a lot of attorneys out there to say he's full of shit, and they're going to tell their students, their clients, or whoever comes up to them that I'm just some loon, don't know my ass from a hole in the ground. So be it. Of course, they're agents of the British, so what else are they going to say? Okay, I've already made, well, actually I didn't. I discarded that video. I did a little rant last night about the media and why the militias are so goddamn terrified of being called names by them. I mean, it is really quite ridiculous. But I am writing a new plan of action, and it's going to take a very large article, and it's going to make it a lot smaller, because I'm going back to the 1776. I'm not going back to 1789 anymore, because it failed miserably, primarily because of the corruption of man in his heart. The lawyers, and a lot of them obliged to England, which were under the control of the Rothschilds, who controlled the Bank of England. You see those little pecking order here. That's why the original founders, before they really got too old to be in power, saw this defect and proposed the original 13th Amendment, which was ratified and made a part of the Constitution and printed in the Constitution up to the Civil War, that forbid anyone receiving a title of nobility from holding office in the United States, or any of them. Okay, so when you receive the title Esquire, and you're a member of the British Accreditation Registry, the Bar, you are an agent of Great Britain. You are an agent of the Crown. You are not operating, and your allegiance is not to the American Republic and natural law. Now, the reason for my thinking regarding the grand jury, and I know that a number of my friends on Facebook and people that follow me otherwise that I'm not aware of, because I'm discovering that I do have followers that aren't even on Facebook. But I want to explain myself, and that is that in the Declaration of Independence there is not a single mention of British common law. However, it does establish that America, in breaking with Britain, which included the common law of Great Britain, was established on the laws of nature and nature's God. I'm beginning to see the grand jury under common law as a compromise. Now, that I don't have anything to base that on. That's purely my speculation and opinion. So I want to make that very clear. But I believe that we need to go back to 1776, embrace the foundation of America that was established by that document, or recognized by that document, which is the laws of nature and nature's God, and start over without all of these compromises with the Crown, Great Britain in particular, which occurred at the Treaty of Paris. If you read the Treaty of Paris, you're going to realize, if you're at least those that are still capable of reading and comprehending what they read, they're going to realize that the American Revolution was betrayed in that treaty. And I'm not gonna give my opinion on that one. I'm just going to simply ask you to read it honestly. And if you don't grasp what I'm saying the first time, read it a few times. It is there, particularly in the first paragraph. It makes it vividly clear who runs America. Okay? The Alien and Sedition Acts of 1798 were in reaction to Benjamin Franklin's son publishing an expose of the Senate approving a bill, or approving a shipment of gold in the amount, I believe, of 600,000 pounds to Great Britain as reparations for the war, consistent with the agreement of the Treaty of Paris. Well, the American people, once they realized that this secret shipment of American gold to Great Britain for reparations for the Revolutionary War, well, it just didn't sit very well with the Revolutionary War veterans and the families of the dead, and the true American patriots that really thought they were independent of the Crown. And so Congress's reaction wasn't to conciliate themselves with the people. No, they passed a law that made it illegal for what Benjamin Franklin's son had done. Okay? Now, Congress passed a law that if Benjamin Franklin's son again exposed something of this nature, he would go to prison. Okay? This was the reaction of Congress in 1798. That's not 1998 or 2008. So, you see, this has been going on for a very long time. The betrayal of American principle and the betrayal of natural law has been going on longer than the Constitution's been in force, when it was in force. So, my thinking on the subject, as I stated a little earlier, is that we go back to 1776, back to the foundation on natural law and on the laws of nature and nature's God. Natural law, natural rights of the people, and the principle that the only purpose of government, the only one, is to secure our natural rights. Period. Again, this is a plan I'm writing out. You can reject it, you can wipe your ass with it, you can do whatever you want. It's my opinion. It's a plan that I'm putting out. All kinds of people bitched constantly, especially before I wrote the first one, that there was no plan. Everybody was just putting out memes and quoting the Founding Fathers, and nobody had a plan. Well, now I'm writing the second one, okay? There's just a plan. Whether you accept it or not is up to you. I can't force any of you to do anything, okay? But this is what makes sense to me as a person, in my brain. Opinion, okay? We need to go to righteousness. In the Christian Bible, it says that righteousness exalts a nation, and sin is a reproach to any people. And we're living in a very unrighteous age with people that have no regard whatsoever for righteousness. So, is it a little wonder that we're in the mess we're in? And the only course that I see, and the only thing that justifies force going forward, is a return to the Declaration of Independence. Because why would we want to go back to something that was corrupt when it was set aside? It makes no difference. It makes no sense to me, I should say. I think I've done enough damage in this video. Plus, let's see, I don't see how long it's been. Plus, it's 15 minutes long, which is a little longer than I expected. So, until the next statement of my opinion, I bid you all adieu.